Hey everybody, welcome to episode 4 of Building 2JP's turbo system. In the first 3 episodes, we handled everything that have to do with building the merge collector, locating the turbo, and building the primaries. Now in episode 4, we're going to take that fabricated manifold and those fabricated primaries and turn them into a completed exhaust manifold. So if you remember at the end of episode 3, we went ahead and welded one of the exhaust manifold primaries. Episode 4 is going to focus around finishing welding the rest of these primaries and getting the wastegates located on the manifold. So let's go take a look at the manifold on the welding bench and I'll show you guys what we're doing today. So we see the manifold is still in the same condition that we left it at the end of episode 3. I have primary 1 welded and fit to the collector and the head flange, and primary 2 and primary 3 are off, ready to be welded. So if you remember, I don't have a dedicated fixture for this turbine flange location in this style of manifold. So we are removing the primaries one by one, or 2, I guess, in this instance, welding them and refitting them to the exhaust manifold. So I apologize if you hear a little bit of heater noise. The shop is still warming up for the day and the heater is directly above my head here. But we're going to go ahead and keep moving forward with this process. So I will move on to welding primary 2, which is right here next. We'll do primary 3 after that and then move on to the remaining 3 primaries. So what I'll go ahead and do now is go to a time lapse and we'll start getting these primaries welded. There we go. I have all the primaries welded up, and you can see that I have 2 of them that are already ground and fit to the collector and the head flange there. So what I will do next is weld these 2 primaries up fully to the head flange, to the collector, all that. And at that point, I don't have to worry about the manifold or the collector not being in the same location at that point. It's welded, it's stuck in that location at that point, and can move forward from there. So let me bring this up to the bench. I'll get all of the fasteners tightened down on the head flange there, and we'll get to doing some more welding. I went ahead and put primary 3 up on here as well. Reason for that is it is the closest to the block and the most likely to have an interference issue there. So I'll actually start by welding this primary to head flange to collector. That way, if it pulls weird or there's any interference issue after it's been welded, I can easily remove the number 1 and number 6 primaries and cut the manifold apart and reconfigure this primary so it will fit. So I guess without further ado now, let's go ahead and get to welding number 3 on there. Have number 3 all welded up, and I didn't film it, but I did pull it off of the head flange fixture, test fit it on the rig. It fits flawlessly, So now I can move on to number 6 and number 1, get those welded up, and move forward with the other 3 from there. Alright, so we spent the day today welding the exhaust manifold up, and it's sitting over on the bench right now off of the purge block, so why don't we take a look at it. And man, check that out. That came out pretty sweet. I am very satisfied with that. With it being Schedule 5 321 stainless construction, it is pretty much as light as you can make a schedule pipe manifold. I used 1.25" primaries as opposed to 1.5" or stepped primaries due to the desire to make this setup spool as quickly as it possibly can. Everything fit up very nicely, welded nicely. The whole thing was back purged as well, as I typically do with all of my exhaust manifolds. So why don't we take this and put it over in JP and see how it looks. So I went ahead and I put the manifold into the razor, and I put the turbo on as well, and check this out. Dude, that is a sight to see. Everything clears marvelously. Plenty of room for the exhaust and intercooler tubes and the intake tube and every other bit of the plumbing that is still left to do on this thing. So we'll go around. I'll show you guys a few different angles of it. So we go down. Looks sweet there. Said you have plenty of room for intake tube and everything else. Come around to the back side. There's kind of the swoop that I was talking about in the earlier episode when we were fabricating this. Looks awesome. See if I can climb up here. Ooh, don't fall. Get the above profile. Yeah, that's what we were looking for here. And down in here, kind of in this area where thereabouts are where the 2 wastegates will sit at. Now, I did plan to put the wastegates on today, but it's already late. It's dark out. I think it's going on 8 o'clock at this point in time, and I'm not going to do that this evening. So that'll wait till tomorrow. The video will pick up tomorrow morning, and we'll go ahead and start doing the wastegates. Hey everyone, welcome back. It's the following day after we got the manifold all fully welded. So today's task is to take these 2 precision 46mm wastegates and to give them a home on the exhaust manifold. I left enough room in this area right here to give those wastegates a home there and to still offer enough space to run an oil drain. So what we'll do to start is go over here, and I have 2.5 inch Schedule 5 321 stainless, long radius 90 weld elbows, and we will initially make a teardrop cut on these, which I'll show you guys how to do that momentarily, and then we'll go from there. So let's get those cuts done and get started. Check out the fitment on these. And I went ahead and did the rest of the prep on these coped wastegate inlets. You guys have seen me do prep before. It isn't that exciting, but check out the fitment on these things. And this is a piece of 2.5 inch schedule pipe, so they are coped appropriately to fit onto our manifold. You can see no substantial gaps whatsoever going around either side of them. Flip them around, so I can put my money where my mouth is. Fit real nice all the way around. Those will work very well for our wastegate inlets. So I've already gone ahead and held them up to the wastegate where it's going to go on the manifold, at least one of them. So I'll go ahead and tack one of these bends to one of the wastegate inlet flanges, and then we will get our first wastegate location. Alright, I have marked out, you can see some of the Sharpie marks on the side of the collector there for our first wastegate location. And I'm trying to stick to the outside of this bend as much as I can, as that is where the concentration of flowing exhaust gas will be at. You always want to hedge towards that direction, and you always want to hedge towards that flow path of the exhaust. People refer to it as we're giving the wastegate priority of flow, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. So let me get the wastegate in my hand here. Hold momentarily. Almost have it. There we go. So if I put this in here and match up to Sharpie mark as best I can, you can see there's our first location. Plenty of clearance to that tube, and it'll still allow me to pull the manifold in and out quite easily. So what I will do now is I'll go ahead and I will weld this flange to this bend. And that will eliminate one place where there can be movement and things can kind of pull and warp and act weird as they're being heated up and welded together. So I'll go ahead, weld this flange, we'll double check on the manifold, and then we can move forward from there. I have the manifold pulled off now, and I finished making my Sharpie mark. This egg shape right here will be the inlet for the first wastegate provision, which I have here. I did go ahead and weld the inside of this as well. And the reason I do that, it blends the bend into the flange without having a seam there. It's like porting, but rather than removing material, you're adding it. So it makes it a little bit stronger that way. So now I will go ahead and cut this first hole for the wastegate provision. And since this hole is a bit oblong, you can't easily use a hole saw to cut this hole. If you do, it leaves quite a bit of material overhanging that needs to be ground out, and it's kind of a pain to do that. So I actually use the angle grinder to do this, which you guys will see momentarily how this works. So why don't we go ahead, get this hole cut, and start moving forward. So what I did is I took my angle grinder and I cut essentially 2 crosshairs into this, and then went around and used the radius of the cutoff wheel to cut my angles, or to cut the curves into it. So by the time you're said and done with this, see if I can do this with one hand. There we go. You break off little triangles, and you have a roughed in hole that leaves much less grinding left to do in order to fit your wastegate inlet. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of these triangles busted out, get the hole ground the way that it needs to be, and then it will be time to tack the inlet on. Alright, as you guys saw from that time lapse, I got both of the wastegate provisions, or at least part of both of them, welded on here. So this one is completely done. I have the flange on it. It's ready to have the gate mounted to it. The other one, rotate it here, has the beginnings of the provision done, but it needs an elbow on it to kick the wastegate out of the way a bit for the oil feed, or the oil drain rather. So you can see the inside, nice transitions, no overhangs, no anything that's going to impede flow to the valves on the wastegates. So why don't I put this manifold back onto JP, and we'll figure out exactly the elbow that needs to go on it. Okay, so I have my other wastegate here. You're going to have a 40-degree elbow that seems like it will work quite nicely. So if I hold this up here, it places the gate. See if I can balance this. Yeah. Places the gate away from this pocket right here, which is what will allow the oil drain to go to its home. It has enough clearance to get both of the clamps on the wastegates, and it places them in a semi-symmetrical, or at least in the same area. So I really like that. I think that is where this wastegate is going to reside. So why don't we get this piece prepped, get it welded to the flange, and get it marked, tacked, welded onto the manifold. There we have it, completed wastegate provisioning. It looks a little bit close, but there is still plenty of room to get both of the clamps on. Both the gates fit well. Did my freehand weave around the whole perimeter of these two, and a normal bead in between the two provisions. So why don't we take it now, put it back in the rig, put the gates on, put the turbo on, and you can see what it looks like in its entirety. Check that out. It's really starting to look like something now. Have both of the wastegates on. Still plenty of room to run dump tubes down or wherever they may run. Everything fits in there well. Still plenty of room for an oil return. Man, this thing is turning out very nicely. Very happy with it. Man, I just can't get enough of this thing. So the next order of business, now that we have the manifold, for all intents and purposes, complete, will be the exhaust and the wastegate dump tubes. And that is what the next video will focus on. This setup is turning out awesome. The guys are going to be very excited when they come to pick it up and they get to see it in its entirety in person. And I can't wait to see their reactions. The exhaust is going to be absolutely wild. We came up with a very, very cool idea when the guys dropped the rig off, and I can't wait to get started on it. To see that exhaust be built and to see the rest of this project be wrapped up, be sure to stick around for the next episode. As always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and we'll see you next time.